Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Key Gripe, the show for short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. And today I'm going to be talking about Assassin's Creed, and there will be some major spoilers. The Apple of Eden contains a power that can alter the free will of mankind, and the Templars want it. But they must use their ancient enemy to find it, a group dedicated for generations to protecting the greatest threat to human freedom, assassins. The film stars Michael Fassbender, Marion Cotillard, Jeremy Irons, Brendan Gleeson, Charlotte Rampling, Michael K. Williams, and Ariane Labed. And the film is directed by Justin Kurzel. For the 5 people who don't know, this is based on a video game franchise of the same name. In concept, it seems like something that would make for an interesting and exciting movie. And somewhere buried inside this movie is a compelling and competent story. But we didn't get it. Instead, what we got is an absolute mess. Before I get into my gripes, and that is plural, I will give the movie a little bit of credit, and that's namely the actors. Despite having no real development or emotional investment, the actors play Dyer really well. It's a surprising cast given the source material and the story, especially Cotillard. I was really surprised that they managed to nab her for a role in this film. If anything, the actors are intense. Everything about their situation is dourly important. Everything has a lot of very serious weight to it. But that doesn't matter, because I've got 3 key gripes with this movie. Now that I've given this movie a little bit of praise, here's my first key gripe. The plot. Or more accurately, the lack of a plot. There is absolutely no progression of a story at all. We're given the basic story in text at the beginning of the movie, so you have to read in order to find out what this movie's going to be about. Then without nuance, we are told exactly how it will unfold within the first 5-10 minutes of this film. I'm not looking for something complicated, something really heady, but it at least needs to be more than a vessel for some action. What they try to do is get into the morality component, which I will get to momentarily. Key gripe the second. The visuals. They're a mixed bag, but there is one constant that is just terrible throughout the movie. The entire movie is covered in a haze or some other kind of obscuring visual tone. Anytime that Cal, who's played by Michael Fassbender, goes into the Animus, the past is foggy or smoky. Now, even if this is meant to be artistic, it is bloody annoying being unable to see anything that's going on. And I use that word bloody specifically because the word itself is bloodier than this movie. They really did sell their souls for a PG-13 rating. I wish I could say the visuals were impressive, but the timbre of the film is just distracting, not to mention the obnoxiously fast-paced panning, which is better suited for Fast and Furious movies. And key gripe number 3, this is definitely the biggest one I have with this movie. The crux of this movie is finding the Apple of Eden for the sake of saving humanity. Like so many other generic villain organizations, the Templars want to subjugate human free will in the name of peace, kind of like the Empire in Star Wars. But we already know that peace really means submission to their ideal. And this movie is not subtle about the hypocrisy of the Templars from the moment you first see them. But what really irked me was the ridiculous idea that a scientist character in the film firmly believes that they can cure violence. Their position is that violence is an inherited genetic trait, which right there gives me a question of whom do I root for in this film, the hypocrites or the genetically violent? The Templars believe that by using the apple they can eliminate free will and correct that violent gene, but they seem to be unaware that violence at its core is an aspect of survival instinct, which is necessary for the propagation of a species. It isn't reduced simply to the impulse to kill. Violence is any sort of notion of survival. But even so, those who are already born would have been killed, basically. If they were to get this apple, they'd have to kill off those who are already infected by this violence gene. That's the whole point of using the Spanish Inquisition as a setting, because they think if they get rid of the violent people, they can have peace. Again, the hypocrisy of these characters is so frustratingly illogical. And the moment I heard them talking about curing violence or the violence gene, they completely lost me. Because I can buy a lot of silly concepts, but this was just laughably ridiculous for a movie this stern, this dour. It went for a high morality message only to devolve into hazy, incoherent nonsense. Overall, I am remiss to say that video game films are doomed to fail, but it's entries like Assassin's Creed that really support that argument. And despite conviction from the actors and some decent action, the film is a chaotic mess where you find it difficult to root for anyone. If the focus had been on the fun, it might have been entertaining, but since it tried to be a moral play, it is a dour and uninteresting adventure. I'm giving this movie 4 out of 10 for being unenjoyable, messy, just chaotic, and overall a very poorly executed film. Let me know your thoughts on Assassin's Creed. If you liked it or didn't like it, I would definitely like to discuss this with some people. And that does it for this episode of Gripe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Nice work. Good job. If you like what you saw, you can just go ahead and click that subscribe button for all videos past and future. You can also head over to my website and see all the other stuff that I do, including the books I've written. So go ahead, click stuff.